Roosevelt Lake, and we're promoting the Florida strain largemouth and what it takes to get these largemouth into big proportions of 9, 10, 11, 12. And we're hoping that someday we're going to break that record of 17 pounds. And these fish are growing fast. And if you watch part 1 and part 2 with Andy Clark from the Game and Fish, you're going to see all the stuff that went into, and there's even a show on golden algae. So we're putting a lot of effort into this, and we have Dave Weidman and Kurt Gill with us today, and they're doing all this habitat that you see in the back and what we're doing. So this is very important. How many of these cubes, these are Georgia cubes that came from Georgia, the idea?
Yeah, the design came from Georgia.
And you have like 3 different types of habitat?
We're using 4 different types of habitat for Roosevelt Lake. We've got these Georgia cubes. We've got a commercially made product we buy called a mossback safe haven.
Okay.
We also have another commercial product made by a company called Fish Hiding. It's a fish hiding high-rise structure, stands about 6 feet tall.
Okay.
And lastly, our concrete reef balls.
Okay. So how many of these are already going to be put in after today?
Let me go to the record. We'll have over 700 structures.
700 structures
into Roosevelt Lake after we're done today. So we had about 600 before we started this installment 2 days ago. So we've done a little over 100, 120 maybe this week.
So they have everything on paper, guys, about what coves are going in, how deep they're going in, what structures are going in. They're GPS'd, and they're not putting them on the very ends because of all the structure on the salt in the tunnel with all the weed growth and stuff. And Kurt and I were talking about that a little bit ago about those fish already have habitat. But out here in the main lake, when this water starts going down, there is no habitat. It's just void of trees or anything.
It's a moonscape.
Yeah.
We call it a moonscape.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's just flat.
So what is the reason why we're you're putting these structures in at 30 feet, say 30, 35 feet?
Well, water level in this lake goes up and down, as you know, quite a bit. It fluctuates a lot. And we put the habitat structures down at an elevation where we did an analysis on the fluctuations of the lake levels where we wanted them to be underwater about 80% of the time, realizing that during a real severe drought period, the lake is probably going to drop below where our structures are. And if it stays down there for very long, we'll go in and we'll put habitat down at that level as well.
Okay.
But we identified that range of about 20 foot between 2090 and 2070 where the water is going to be covering the structures most of the time. Like you say, when the water gets up to about 2100, 2110, 2120, it starts flooding the arms of the lake. It floods back to the coves where the trees and the vegetation has already had a chance to grow up. And so the lake will rise back up into that vegetation. So we don't need structure in there because it naturally grows when the lake level's down. But down around 2080, there is no structure because it's usually underwater, and you don't grow a lot of habitat when it's underwater, except for maybe some aquatic vegetation. Very minimal amounts.
So how many of these structures per cove do you think you're putting in? And if it's a big cove, how many structures would you put in maybe?
You know, it's varying. I believe we're going from like 25 to up around 50 per cove.
Wow.
Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like right in that range.
I already went out and followed these guys a little bit yesterday and got a little bit of coves, and I went over some of these 30, 35 foot, and boy, they stick up too. Off the bottom, because remember Dave said that there is no habitat there. There's no trees down where they're putting them, so these are going to be the trees. And I could see that on the graph as it comes up, you know, and they're pretty big structures. They're 4 or 5 feet wide, and they show up on your sonar really nice. So we are going to come back with some scuba divers in a week or two, and we're going to come down and look at what you did underwater.
Oh, you're going to come scuba diving?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right on.
So we're going to come out and we're going to do a show on that. So we're going to really promote all this that all your workers do and all the effort you put in and all the money you put in to let all these people in Arizona be part of this is what we're going to do.
That's good. We've been building structures out in the Mesa office since 2014. We started putting together those concrete reef balls.
Oh,
and
my
all
gosh.
the ones that you see stored up here now, we started building 4 years ago. And it's just taken us a while to get them transported down here and then buy us a boat big enough that we could put concrete in the water. You know, it's kind of heavy. Got to have a big boat that can float it. So we've been working at this for a couple of years. We've expended a lot of man hours, a lot of angler dollars to buy this material. We have a grant from the Reservoir Fish Habitat Partnership that bought 300 material for 300 of these
Wow.
Georgia cubes for us. So, you know, we've been busy trying to improve the fishery in this lake.
So what they're doing is building this right now. What habitat are they building right now?
These are the Mossback safe haven structures. And it's the one we buy from a company called Mossback.
Okay.
And so it's got a plastic base, and you see the 3 upright plastic tubes on them. And so they're screwing the tubes onto the base so they don't come off when we throw them in. And you can see all the notches cut in those upright tubes.
Right.
And they'll get a plastic limb slid through them. We'll see them start putting those in here in a second. And it's basically shaped like a piece of angle iron, 1.5-inch angle iron. And there'll be, I think there's 60 of them to a structure, and it just makes this convoluted, prickly mess that fish
Right.
can swim around in.
Yeah, I saw them yesterday where the things are just sticking all over the place.
Yeah, they're sticking all over the place,
And then
but-
there's like spaces in between where the fish can actually get in there and do their
Right.
habitat in there.
Right, so they're starting to slide the limbs in now,
Okay.
and they'll hang them off, you know, the sides, and those limbs will lock that block in place down on the bottom so that it can't come out when we throw it in.
So Kurt's driving, he's looking at a graph, sonar,
Right.
and he's going to be going and looking how deep to put these at, because you want to set
Exactly.
them at a certain elevation.
Exactly. He'll be able to see. You were out here yesterday, dumped
Right.
some in, so he'll be able to see them on the graph, and he can just kind of cruise around, find the right depth, see where the ones were yesterday, and then add to them. We try and follow the contour line along the shore to keep them all at the same depth, so they're not running in and out of shore. They're running along the shoreline. That way they stay at the same depth.
Do you try to put them all in a row like at Apache, or you just kind of put them all
Well,
over? It's kind of hard
it's
to
hard
go
to-
back in at 35 feet and go, oh yeah, here's 2 of them here. We'll put it right exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to
It's
actually
hard.
look at that. You know, I mean, I'm looking at my depth finder at 37 feet, and there's none right here. But they put them right down the center here yesterday. So
Okay.
when they get built here, he's just idling. And when they do get built, do you see how fast, guys, that they're putting these together? I mean, these guys are fast.
Yep.
They've got teams of guys, and one guy's sticking it in there, the other guy's drilling, the other one's putting a screw in. These employees from Region 6 office mostly?
Some of them are. Brant Dickens, the tall guy, he works for me down in Phoenix.
Okay.
He's my aquatic habitat specialist. Kurt Guild, program manager in Mesa. Got a couple of fish biologists from his office, and then some summer interns or college students working their way through biology program at Arizona colleges or maybe out of state, and they're working for us for the summer.
Okay. After they get this built, then we'll be seeing those sticks acting as limbs, mostly to look like a tree, right?
Right, they start looking like a tree as they get them put together, and you notice they're putting them with the angle pointed upward, so those limbs will catch sediment and
Oh, nice.
and decomposing algae as it falls to the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And eventually they'll probably fill up and start sagging a little bit, but we put them that direction so that fishermen, as they're drop shotting down through there, you can pull up through and not snag your lure.
Right.
If you were to turn them over, it's more likely you'd catch it on something and
Right, so they're
and break
so
off.
you're actually thinking as you looking at this, you're actually placing those so the fishermen that find these on the graphs can go and fish these and they won't be getting snagged on them that much.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a pretty neat idea. You know?
Yeah, we're putting these in to concentrate the fish into areas where we can point on a map and say, hey, if you don't know what else to do, go fish here.
Right.
And the goal is to improve angler success, angler catch rates, so that our fishermen can catch more fish. It's such a huge lake like this, it's not real likely that this fish habitat program is going to increase the numbers of fish in the lake. We're not going to add a lot to the population.
Right.
That's controlled so much by the water level and the inflow and the nutrient availability. But what it does do is concentrate fish into areas that we can point to and say, go fish here.
Oh, okay. So basically this is just to help fishermen, you know, find these concentrated areas where these big coves are, and you have all this where the fish are hiding to help them catch fish.
Right, to identify
Wow.
an area that you should have a higher success rate fishing around these structures than you would any other random shoreline, unless you fish this like a lot like you do, Gary, and you know the bottoms and you know where there's some submerged structure.
Right.
You guys know where that stuff is. But the everyday angler, he might not fish often enough to know that kind of
Right,
thing.
they don't. You know, the old rule of thumb is 10% of all the anglers catch 90% of the fish.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I promote Bartlett because I'm on Bartlett a lot, and I've been promoting this lake, trying to get the anglers and showing them different techniques. And we did a Ned rig show here last week,
Okay.
and an Alabama rig show here, and we did some Texas rigging stuff just to help anglers catch more fish.
Yeah, learn techniques.
You know, learn new techniques about, you know, and that's what's neat about our show is we're showing all these different techniques. We're not just coming out and drop shotting or something easy.
Yeah, you're
We're showing,
teaching.
We're more or less teaching you, so when you
Right.
do go out with your wife or you go out with your kids, you can start catching more fish. Now, if we get in a severe drought and this lake keeps coming down another 20, 30 feet, there's a possibility that these things are going to be sticking out of the water. And this is all plastic, so if an angler hits this with his prop, it's not going to hurt nothing.
Yeah, hopefully not. He should be able to run right over these, and he'll do more damage to our habitat structures than hopefully you do to your outdrive on
Right,
your
yeah,
boat.
there won't be. You have another one that's all concrete, like a little dome. What is that called?
Yeah, that's we call it a concrete reef ball. It's
Reef ball?
a half dome. It's got a bunch of crevices and holes in it, and we'll just throw it off the boat and it'll sink to the bottom. Nice thing about these is no matter how you dump it in, as long as it's over about 10 or 12 feet deep, it'll turn itself right and sink and sit on the bottom.
How heavy? I saw those up in the parking lot. How heavy is that concrete reef ball?
Each one is about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds,
Oh, man.
depending on how much concrete we put in the form. Sometimes we fill them a little higher, and sometimes we didn't get them quite as full.
Right.
And that much concrete it can be 500 pounds
So
in a structure. And so we'll put 3 of them on this boat. We've got a A-frame that sits on the boat with a hoist so that we can
Okay.
pick them up and put them on the deck. But we pull it off to do this kind of work because it just gets in the way.
I was going to say, you must have a crane on that sucker to do that because
Yeah.
1,500 pounds a piece. I mean, oh my gosh, you got between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. That's like taking
Yeah.
this boat.
And putting it on that boat.
Yeah, putting it on that boat and then dropping it down in the water.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's the nice thing about this boat that we bought. It was custom built and designed for doing those concrete reef balls, but it's got enough deck space, as you can see. 2 crews can be assembling these, the mossback structures.
Do this one here pretty quick.
All right, we're getting ready to drop one of these. This is called what now? A mossback?
This is a mossback safe haven. They make a lot of different designs. This design of theirs is the safe haven.
So what do you think one of those weighs with that brick in there, that block?
Oh, a cinder block is probably only 15, 18 pounds.
Okay.
All that plastic, all together, it's probably about 35 or 40 pounds.
So two
All right, guys, ready?
of those go on a base. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look how fast that sinks. It's actually going down pretty fast.
Yeah.
So my
Underwater,
boat-
it's going to look just like a
So
tree.
it's down.
So that was about 35 feet of
Yeah,
water.
it's down 35 feet right now.
Yeah, now what we can do is as he kind of drifts off and they finish up this last one, you can run over it and see if you can pick it up with your sonar.
The habitat we put in is showing up right in through here. That's the habitat that they're dumping in right now. And I drifted over them, so I'd have to back up to get it. So those are at 34 feet right there. So what we're doing is they're loading up the Georgia cubes, and we're just gonna go out in the next cove right over here and plant these real close by. This will be the last load of 700 of these things that have went in the lake in the last month or two?
2 years.
2 years? Okay, 2 years they've been doing this, so. Is there any more plans for more of these to go in?
Oh yeah, we've got material up there in the parking lot to build probably another 150 of these,
Okay.
and we'll keep buying material and putting habitat in for years.
Oh, wow.
This is a 10-year program. Yeah, that's a boatload of habitat.
That is a boatload of habitat.
So as they were putting one of those structures on, one of the PVC pipes pulled out of the coupling. So they're gonna have to run up and grab some glue and glue it back in. So they're gonna be sitting there for a little while.
Actually, oh yeah, actually there's some in the truck because one of that happened when we were unloading them a little while earlier.
really?
Yeah, one came out and there was the bottom one where the rocks were inside. And so they went ahead and
Glued it
somebody
back
forgot
together.
to glue it. There was no glue on it, so.
Yeah, you get to doing dozens of these in a day and gluing couplings, and sometimes somebody shoved one together that didn't get any glue on it.
Right.
That one just went upside down. There we go. Throw another one in between them.
You almost could, couldn't you? There you go. Perfect shot. That one's sinking fast once you got some water in it. So you got 1, 2, 3 right in a row. That's one of the habitats we just put in. There's another one right there coming up. See it? See how it's coming, how the bottom of the floor is there, then all of a sudden it's coming up. That's it. It's showing up at a real solid color. So we're up here with Dave at the site where they build all the reef balls and all the equipment here behind it. Who is the person or the company that lets us use the parking lot and stuff?
The parking lot here is part of the Tonto National Forest, and they've been great partners with us. You know, they manage all of the campgrounds and stuff surrounding the lake, and they've let us kind of take over this parking lot here for storing all of our material, and we come up here and do builds with volunteers and our staff. You know, we just kind of take over this whole place, and as you can see, we've got a lot of material stored around here. So they've been a great partner for this whole project. And
That's
behind us,
neat.
you can see our concrete reef balls.
Yeah, look at that.
I think we've got about maybe 50 or 60 of them here left.
How many of those have you put in? 100 or 200?
No, we've only put 29 of these.
Oh, 29? In. Okay, because they're
Yeah,
so heavy.
so
You
far.
said they were 1,500 pounds a piece.
Yeah, on average.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're look pretty sturdy. I mean, you know, and you can see, guys, from all the holes in there, how those fish are going to go inside there. And you're putting these the same depth, like 20, 30, 40 feet deep?
Yeah, same depth that we're putting the other structures because of the lake level fluctuations.
Right.
These have a little special criteria. We want to keep them on shorelines that are more steeply sloped.
Okay.
So as that water level starts dropping and this concrete gets closer and closer to the surface, we don't want it to be 100 feet from shore where guys are running on plane up and down the lake.
Oh, yeah.
We want them to be fairly close to shore where you better be idling if you know anything about boating.
Right.
Because we don't want somebody to hit their lower unit on one of these things. That would be a bad day.
Right, that would.
So we keep them close to shore so when the water level drops, they're not real far out there where somebody can run into them.
So let's back up and let's say you've been doing this for 3 years, since 2015,
Right.
this project, and that's when you guys wanted to first start it?
Yeah, we started doing some of the planning work and the environmental compliance process to get the authority and the approvals to put all this stuff in the water. Started doing that in 2014.
Wow.
We got the approval to put all this structure in the lake, all the signatures finally in April of 2017, and right away we started putting in a bunch of structures. We got this big boat delivered to us in May of 2017 and got it outfitted and ready to put to work, and we've been using it to put habitat in the lake now too.
So there's a lot of red tape with the government to do stuff like this, because everybody owns a little piece of the action here. The Forest Service actually owns the land, the ramp, and you guys want to put this in there. You manage the fish, so everything has to jive. So it takes you a lot long to get all this stuff going.
Let me run through a real quick list. Salt River Project manages the water and the dam, so we had to get their permission. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has an Endangered Species Act they administer, so we had to show compliance with the Endangered Species Act. The Army Corps of Engineers has this thing called a 404 dredge and fill permit, so we had to get a Army Corps permit to put material in a water of the United States. And then the Tonto National Forest, of course, did the NEPA compliance so that we could have NEPA addressed, National Environmental Protection Act. So there's 4 different federal agencies that had to sign off on our activities. So yeah, it's a lot of red tape.
So let me ask you this, since you just explained all this to all the anglers and the TV programs and stuff like that, it is illegal to cut trees down, take them out and put them in the lake.
Absolutely.
For an individual like me and stuff. It's illegal in the state of Arizona.
It's not only cutting down the trees, but if you want to bring your Christmas tree out to the lake and sink it yourself, that's also illegal. So it's not even going and cutting the trees. If you bring something to the lake and want to dump it in for fish habitat, that's illegal.
But some states allow it.
Some states do.
Like South Carolina, North Carolina, because they're all building Christmas tree things off their piers and stuff. But in Arizona, you cannot put nothing into this lake
Well, and all those laws I just mentioned to you also apply in South Carolina, but South Carolina may have gone through a process that allows them on certain lakes the authority to permit people to do that on their own. They may also be doing it in conjunction with South Carolina Fish and Wildlife Agency permits, you know, under their authority. So we could authorize somebody else to come out and work with us or do stuff for us.
Right.
But you still have to go through all the same federal laws, the ESA, the Clean Water Act, NEPA. Still got to comply with all those no matter where you're working.
Wow. Well, folks, you've heard it. You pretty well got the whole rundown of all, after you see this video, of all the stuff we showed and the boating and putting those things in. And this morning, building them before you got here, we were watching the guys put them together and sinking them out there. So this is going to give you an idea of all the hard work that these guys are going through and the money involved, the permits of all this stuff to get this, to build this trophy bass lake. Thanks again, Dave, for all your hard work.
My pleasure. Thanks for helping us tell the story.
All right, thank you.